I'm a beast with these flows. Two birds, one stone. You get geese when trees roll.
All right, talking about the New York Giants today. Really like the New York Giants because I like Odell Beckham. I think Odell Beckham is probably my favorite player in the league. A lot of people hate Odell Beckham, and I really don't know why. I mean, if you get into media type shit, you'll probably hate him. But I don't really get into media type shit. I don't watch shit like that. I watch literally games, and that's it. So when I see Odell Beckham on the field, he's by far the most exciting player, my favorite player to watch. So Giants, this is a tough grade for me because they're in a tough division. I think the Eagles are good. I think the Eagles are gonna, the Eagles didn't lose much. They added good pieces to what they lost. If they did lose, Wentz is coming back. I think that the Eagles are going to be good. The only thing I don't think they're going to be 13-3 again. I think they're going to struggle a little bit more this year. I think they're going to have more of a target on their back. I think they coasted all last year without a target on their back, and I think they've got a big target on their back this year. And I think a lot of teams are going to be gunning for them. The Cowboys are in a position they were, I think, 13-3 2 years ago. 13-3 2 years ago, won 9 games last year. So this is a good team. And, things you got to remember, Zeke was out for 6 games last year. The offensive line really didn't play good for a good chunk of the season. And so I think that you could definitely see the Cowboys. I've predicted that the Eagles are going to win the division. But I definitely could see that the Cowboys winning the division or definitely giving the Eagles some hell. Now let's talk about the Giants. Giants fans, you're wondering, why am I talking about the Eagles and the Cowboys? Well, I just kind of set it up for you now. Well, I like the Giants, and I think the Giants can be good this year, but I just don't see how high their ceiling can be. I think, Saquon Barkley is going to be a good addition, a good add, and I think that it really depends on the offensive line. Can the offensive line protect for him, and can they, get the passing game going? Can Eli manage games well enough? We know Eli's not an elite quarterback in the sense that he's going to be able to gun the ball down the field and he's going to be able to do things without a running game like someone like Aaron Rodgers. But he's a game manager. He's going to be able to manage games. He's a veteran guy. And I think, that the fact that he can get the ball to Odell, and I think that running the ball, I think they're going to be able to run the ball better this year. They've improved their offensive line in a sense. Nate Soldier is here now. They drafted Will Hernandez in the second round. I thought Will Hernandez, he was my favorite offensive lineman of all the offensive linemen. He's just a nasty offensive lineman. Quentin Nelson was another good one, but Will Hernandez was a guy that I was kind of watching throughout the year that I really liked. Went Saquon Barkley with the second overall pick. I think they definitely got the best player in the draft. I think the most ready player for right now. So he's going to make an impact right now. So I just have mixed feelings. I think that the Giants could be 6-10 because they have enough talent to go 6-10, but at the same time, this team was projected to make it to the Super Bowl last year or deep into the playoffs. They were projected to win a division or at least make a wild card spot, and they completely imploded. And the reason that they imploded was, Odell went down. They had other issues. Other were on the team, and I don't think that this team. I don't think Odell made this. I don't think the injury of Odell made this team go from, a contender to a pretender to a team that got the second overall pick. I think there was a lot of things more than Odell, and I think that there's if you judge the Giants team last year to kind of try to figure out how they're going to be this year, I think that's a terrible way to look at it. So that's why it's really hard for me to judge the Giants right now because they have added good things in the offseason. They let a lot of that offensive line that just really wasn't getting it done go. Brandon Marshall, I didn't think Brandon Marshall was going to be good. He was hurt for most of the year. Sterling Shepard had injuries last year. Their receiving corps was completely decimated last year. So they really had no passing. And their run game wasn't good either. So their offense was really bad offensive line. And their defense, was all right, but it just, when it had that bad of an offense, the defense, it really didn't matter what the defense did. The offense wasn't producing enough no matter who they were playing. So I think an improved offensive line, they added a couple of guys this offseason. And then, Eric Flowers, I think Eric Flowers was on this team, pretty sure. And then they, Patrick Patrick Omia, offensive lineman, right guard. He's on this team. And then they got, Will Hernandez, Nate Solder, who they added. And then the wide receivers are going to be healthy now. And then Saquon Barkley, I think Saquon Barkley is the big X factor. Jonathan Stewart, I think Jonathan Stewart takes some of the carries. I think he takes some of the goal line carries. So I really am not – I like Saquon Barkley, but he's projected as a guy that you're going to have to draft in the first round of your fantasy draft, and that's not something that I want to do because I think he's going to get those carries taken away from Jonathan Stewart around the goal line. But offensively, I think this team is gonna really shock people because I think it's gonna be better than it was. You know, new offensive coordinator, new head coach, and I think they're going to really open up a lot of things for the wide receivers. I think they're going to protect Eli pretty well. And I think that the fact that they have a running game now, this really reminds me of when the Giants were successful back in the day. Tiki Barber, they always had a running game. The Earth, Wind, and Fire days when they had Brandon Jacobs and can't even think of them, those little motherfuckers. Ahmad Bradshaw, and I think there was one more. But anyways, like they had like three guys. The Giants, something that I thought back is like the Giants have always been successful when they had a good defense and a running game. It's never really been about their passing game. And so they're kind of getting back to what they need to get to, the running game and stuff like that. So I think this team's going to be successful soon. I just don't think this is the year for the Giants. You know, I think also Eli Manning's on his last leg. I think Eli might be able to last 2 more years, maybe get this team to the playoffs one more time. But at the same time, I'm not completely sold on them making the playoffs. And you know, the next playoff run may come when Eli's gone. And as tough as that's to say for, you know, Giants fans, that might be the next step in the process. I thought when they were getting rid of Eli last year, I felt like that was kind of, you know, I felt like that was needed. I feel like it was time for regime change. But at the same time, they got Saquon Barkley. They have a veteran quarterback. They're fine on the offensive end. He's going to be able to get it done. They're going to be able to compete somewhat this year more than they would be able to with a rookie quarterback. They've got a lot. You know, they have to address the Odell Beckham situation as well. You know, he wants to be the highest paid player in the league. And, you know, he's probably going to hold out before we know it. Probably next year he'll hold out if he has another good season this year. And I don't really think the Giants – you know, I think the Giants want to add him, but I don't think they want to pay the money. It's kind of like the Dallas and the Dez thing. You know, the only thing that's different is I think Odell Beckham produces when Dez wasn't really producing. So that's the one thing that I really get upset is because Odell, you know, he performs on the field. He doesn't really have a lot of off the field drama. They try to make it like he does, you know, where they have him smoking weed with an Instagram model or something like that. But it's like whatever, who doesn't smoke weed? And then, you know, let's talk about this defense for a minute. I'm not really impressed with the defensive ends. Olivier Vernon's all right. I like their interior defensive line with Damon Harrison and Dalvin Tomlinson. They also added R.J. McIntosh and B.J. Hill. B.J. Hill's out of NC State. And then McIntosh is out of Miami, 2 guys they drafted in the draft. They had a pretty good draft as well. Lorenzo Carter, a linebacker that they got out of Georgia. And then a guy that I like for the future, Kyle LaUellette. This was my diamond in the rough type guy. I talked about Mike White for the Cowboys that I liked, but my FCS guy that I really liked was Kyle LaUellette. I like this kid named Chris Streveler too, but he went to the CFL. So talking about this defense a little bit more, or Kyle LaUellette, I think he could be a diamond in the rough, could be the next quarterback for the Giants. Really liked what I saw out of him. Had a tough senior year, had a really good junior year, had a tough senior year. He went to Richmond. Talking about their defense a little bit more, linebackers. They've always never really had good linebackers. Lorenzo Carter slated as a starter right now. Mark Herzlich has always been a good player. And then B.J. Godson, Alec Ogletree. Alec Ogletree, that's a good ad. They added him over the summer. That's going to be a good linebacker to add to this core. I think someone I didn't mention as an ad, Jonathan Stewart. I thought it was a good ad, but this is a guy in the back half of his career, good goal line guy, good veteran, good, like, you know, on the third downs, whenever they need a pass protector, he's going to be able to be that guy. You know, that's something that you don't really realize with running backs in the NFL is on the third downs, those third down backs, sometimes they have to be really good blocker. You can't be a third down back if you're not a good blocker because you got to pick up those blitzes on those third downs. You got to know where you're got to pick up a guy from. And so that's something that the younger running backs aren't as good at. They're more concerned about going out and getting passes, more about running the ball. That's something that the veteran running backs are a little bit better at. So I think Jonathan Stewart was a good add in that sense. Okay, so the strong point of this team, I don't like Eli Apple, but I mean everybody knows the whole Eli Apple thing. William Gay, not a bad player, who they added. Darian Thompson, good player. Landon Collins, good player, and then Janoris Jenkins, one of my favorite cornerbacks in the league. I really like Janoris Jenkins. And Landon Collins is a stud. Went to Alabama. He's got to be a stud if he went to Alabama. And I mean, their secondary is probably their strong suit of their defense. Defensive line is all right. The interior is better than the outside. And the linebackers, we'll see. Ogletree's a good add, a big name. We'll see if he can pan out. Lorenzo Carter was kind of a guy, really big, 6'6", 243. He's the type of guy that he has really good size. I describe him as like the Kalen Ballage type, where it's like he looks like he has a lot of potential, but we'll see what happens when he gets on the field. So we'll see what happens with Lorenzo Carter when he gets on the field, when he gets some playing time. And then some just losses this last year. Jason Puig and Weston Richburg off the offensive line. Brandon Marshall. Jason Pierre-Paul's in Tampa Bay now. Not a bad loss. You gave him a couple years with the 3.5 fingers or whatever he has, and I mean he was all right. He can still play at the NFL level, but is he worth re-signing? No. And so Brad Wing, their punter, Rogers Cromartie gone as well. I mean it's tough. I don't think the Giants are as good as the Cowboys, and I don't think I don't think they're as good as the Eagles either. I think they're definitely better than the Redskins, and I think this team is like on its way up. But I think this team, I think it would be good to be 7-9. I think if you were 7-9, you'd be happy as a Giants. But at the same time, the more and more time that you waste, the more and more time it gets closer to the contract situation with Odell. So the more time that you use, the more time that you have to figure out what you're going to do. And when you lose Odell, you may, if you don't get assets from a trade type thing, you may just lose them straight up through free agency. So they really need to figure out what they're going to do with him. And it's really hard right now, too, because he was injured all of last year. It's kind of the Le'Veon situation where they want to see if he's going to get hurt. They want to see if if his career is going to implode, where they don't add him again, where he goes somewhere else, gets less money. They want to see if he'll have a bad year so they don't have to pay him as much. But the numbers that he puts up, his agent can ask for so much because of, they'll compare, this is the type of numbers he's put up compared to Randy Moss in his first 5 seasons or something like that. And his numbers are outstanding compared to a lot of those other great wide receivers. So I think it's going to be tough, and that's really going to depend on the future of the Giants. Depending on what they decide to do. Do they decide that they can get it done without Odell? Can they get assets for Odell? And then, what are you going to do at the quarterback position after Eli Manning gone? Is Kyle Laulette your answer? Davis Webb, who they drafted a couple years ago, he could be an answer. There's a lot of question marks. The one thing you do need to continue to build is this offensive line, because if you're going to continue with Saquon Barkley, you're going to need an offensive line to help him out. And like I said, this Giants team has been successful in the past with a game manager which an offense that can run the ball with a stout defense. And you're closer to that than anything else. Trade Odell for a couple of good defensive pieces, maybe a draft pick, and you could be on your way. I think this year, though, is good to kind of figure out what Saquon Barkley is. Is he going to be an elite talent that we can ride like Zeke, or is he just going to be another back in the league? Because they've been having a lot of issues with the guys they've drafted as of lately. Just some team needs that I thought of last year real quick. Address the offensive line. They addressed the offensive line, let some of those guys go, added some new ones, draft linebackers. Lorenzo Carter's a guy that they added. And then they added Alec Ogletree in free agency, so that was good. A Z wide receiver. So I'm talking about a number 2 receiver to go with Beckham and Shepard. And didn't really do that. Didn't add anybody in the draft. Didn't really add anybody through free agency. So I guess Roger Lewis and Cody Lattimore is going to have to get it done as that number 2 wide receiver. I like Shepard in the slot. Odell does play a lot of slot as well, so that's going to be an issue. They really do need a number 1 wide receiver. Find a running back. So they did that with Saquon Barkley. Draft a quarterback. I thought they should have drafted a quarterback, but when Saquon Barkley falls to you, you got to take him. And they did draft Kyle Laulette later in the draft. And I say draft a quarterback, that was my top thing, but that was in the sense that I thought they had the second pick and that they were going to go after one of those top quarterbacks, which they didn't. They went for I thought that Saquon Barkley was going to go first overall, so I thought that he wouldn't even be available for him. So I think a good rebuild year for the Giants, but the Giants are in a really tough situation. They can go two different ways, and I hope that they go in a good direction, up, and are competing with the Eagles and the Cowboys. And I don't want them to be a stagnant third place team, but that they could end up there. But I do like what they're doing with their running game right now.
Half stepping around me, and you gotta drown the fish before you clown me. The young cop killer, I'm that ill, so Doc Will give me 2 shots for Tupac killer, nigga. So searching till my flows are perfect. I ain't trying to be a slave to